Hey yo, welcome to Beyond the Mat, where it's all about the things and stuff. It's like this and like that, sitting in a lotus seat. We breathe deep from our heads to our feet till we feel inner heat. A little bit of rhythm for your soul, stretching out your minds from your head to your toes. We in our flow state, we don't know no hate. We into feeling great though, so we correlate. Coil snake gonna rise, sunshine. We take our time to appreciate divine grace. It takes place in a pace in them interstates. From a country road down to the interstate, we contemplate this. We here to make this. We here to break this. But we never fake this. We never hate kids. We in the love vibe. Me and my whole tribe, we gonna try to be fly with the sunshine. Hello, beautiful people out there in Beyonderland. That's right, Beyonder is not only a way of life, but it's a physical place that you can get to by, first, doing a yoga class, and then, second, by stepping off your mat. That's it. That's all it takes. You don't even need to listen to my podcast to be a Beyonder. It's so easy, and best of all, it's free. Today's show is brought to you by, well, this show is the first in a line of shows where I am talking about flow states. And what better way to connect with flow state people than by visiting the Flow Genome Project. I hit up their Facebook community and I left a little message talking about my show here. And just like that, guests appeared out of the foggy mists of the internet. At first, they were but mere dark shadows, and as they stepped closer and closer to the light, we got to see them more clearly and a little more in depth with these wonderful stories about how they get into their flow states and how it all affects their daily lives, both personally and professionally. So, a huge shout out to the Flow Genome Project for facilitating the method of acquiring these guests. This show is, of course, always brought to you by me, mostly because I like to talk about myself, but also because I would like to share these wonderful things with you. What things? Well, it's simple. Artwork. I did a thing, and now I'm trying to sell that thing. Head on over to jcoleyoga.ca, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and have a little gander, a little view, a little perusal of what I have created. And if anything jumps out at you, you should probably punch it, because it shouldn't do that. It should stay confined to behind your computer screen. That's it. Let's get down to business. Today's guest is a man all the way over in Michigan who dropped in to talk about flow states through things like kayaking, meditation, and performing music. Please give a warm welcome to my new friend, Geoffrey Lamberts. Hey man, so welcome to Beyond the Mat, this little podcast I just started doing, my latest endeavor in the world of podcasting. And I mean, normally we interview it's a little hippy dippy kind of stuff, so like yoga, meditation, diets, nutrition, spirituality, flow state. So I guess that's how I found you, through the Flow Genome Project.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually just listening to what Jamie just put up there earlier today.
Yeah.
Up on the page, was I listening to How Much is Too Much, the hedonic engineering test. That's what may have bled through early on, the first few seconds.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
It's so, like, I mean, it's such a huge range of topics to talk about when you're getting into flow state, which is kind of why I don't know. I just thought about it. I was like, I don't know, maybe some people in here want to talk about flow states, because I always ask in my regular like conversations with people, like, oh, have you ever been in a flow state? And usually people are like, no. And so I just thought, like, wow, there's a whole community dedicated to this, so I should probably just like reach out to some of these people and see if anyone wants to have a little chat online. So yeah, it's cool. Thank you for being here, man. This is great. This is cool.
Well, and thank you very much for the invitation. I feel like our history together is almost new. We've met through the Flow Genome Project, and that's about it. The whole purpose. I don't know what your intention of it was, and for reasoning for getting into it. And I honestly don't remember how I even came across the Flow Genome Project, but you had mentioned kind of the types of people, kind of the hippy dippy, the yoga, obviously meditators. I was kind of looking at some of your previous podcasts, and you've got medical or a massage therapist, EMT, on there. Looks like maybe a caregiver on there. Was just kind of browsing through there, and feel like it might be outside the realm for this Beyond the Mat. Maybe I am perfect for Beyond the Mat, technically speaking. As somebody who does meditate regularly twice a day, if I can, at least once a day for sure.
Shit, well, there you
haven't
go.
done yoga in a while, but it's consistent. Somebody into fitness, and that was a big part of my life until about 3 months ago, and things just kind of shifted. But maybe we'll go in an interesting direction here, and we'll see where it goes.
Cool. So, for me personally, a flow state has always been like, so I used to perform on stage doing like rap shows, and you would get into this flow, into this zone where you have like almost like an out of body experience, and your body is doing these things and performing these actions, and your mouth is making these words happen, but you're not even there. You're thinking like, oh my God, there's my friend Jeff. Jeff's got a new hat and he's with a different girl. That's not his girlfriend. And then, you just start thinking all over the place. And then eventually you're like, oh shit, I should probably get back in my body and maybe have some control about what's going on here. And then you snap out of it. So like that. And then later on with yoga, when you get into like those 90-minute yoga classes, right at the end, you just get in this blissful zone of just blah, where you've totally merged together. And that's my only experience. So I think it's cool to talk to other people about their experiences with getting into a flow state. So what would be your like main jive with that?
Well, I'm going to take it back then, because you mentioned rapping on stage. I actually come from a different end of the spectrum on music, where I grew up in metal and hard rock and performed that for years before going to college and being in school. Right. And actually studying that in school in both classical guitar and jazz guitar and jazz focus. And I guess, before knowing what a flow state was, you hear the term in the zone, and just being on stage for me is where everything clicked, and there's the nerves, the butterflies, the tingles, whatever you want to call it, and then getting on stage, once you find the pocket, with the rest of the band, for me, it just, everything gels, everything fits, everybody's on the right page, and even just doing the jazz stuff, everybody can kind of riff off each other and improvise in what they're doing, and it's very, very interesting. It's something that it is almost like a surreal out-of-body experience, and I think it's just very, very cool. For me, that was the easiest, probably for the long time, doing something like that. Right. And then recently if anybody who's read the books, Stealing Fire, I just finished that up probably 2 days ago. Read The Rise of Superman prior to that, and just looking at these action sports, skydiving, that kind of thing. Like I told you, I was just on the other side of the country here in the States. I was over in the Puget Sound, and I was kayaking and trying to get involved, kayak with orca whales, and just being out of the Puget was one of those kind of Stephen Kotler talks about a little bit like the low-grade flow states when you go out for a walk, have a cup of coffee, smoke a joint, whatever, if that's your thing. But for me, it's just being out there with the animals, with the people I know and care about, and then kind of one guide, and just being out there away from cell service and signal and any of that was just kind of surreal, kind of a low grade. But those are, I wish I had more opportunities to take advantage of some of that potential out-of-body experience in skydiving, bungee jumping. For me, roller coasters, man, you go to like a big theme park that's like you're on the coaster for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes max, and it's just crazy to me. I mean, there's so many different opportunities, but meditation is one of the coolest things, and box breathing, doing the prana breathing, those are some things that makes me feel almost supernatural for a short amount of time, and you just get more energy, more focus. It definitely helps me kind of get in the zone, especially in the morning. The mornings are the hardest for me, and then doing things like that, like yoga, like this certain types of meditation, really, really put it in perspective for me.
Yeah. So it seems to be tied in with like, there's always some kind of like physical activity, that's tied in with it before the experience happens. And it's one of those things that you can't even really describe it. It's something that has to be like physically experienced. And then people are like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's that feeling that you get. So I think it's cool that there's a name for it, flow state. But I mean, it's
I
still
agree.
really hard to put your finger on exactly what it is for everybody because it's gonna be different for everybody, and that too is kind of cool. And so yeah, you said like white water rafting, or you said canoeing.
We're actually whitewater, just kayaking in the Puget Sound up there by Seattle, Tacoma, Washington, up there, kind of over by British Columbia is up there
Oh
on the
yeah,
other side of the border.
yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I don't know the geography that well of Canada really, but
No, you're right on. You're
um,
right on the money.
right, flat, crystal clear water. I mean, there's just wildlife out there, and there's nothing. You hear the wind. You can see the birds flying over. It's just being in nature and just kind of isolating yourself. And in this case, it was more of like what could potentially have been, what they refer to as group flow because there were like five other couples there. But it's just being in the pocket, being in the zone with my partner out there, and then the guide, and just I've never been on a body of water that large before in a kayak. Everything's always been river, like small inland lakes, and then you're in the Puget Sound, and it's isolated because you got land all around you, but you go far enough, you're out into the Pacific Ocean,
Oh yeah.
and it's just miles and miles of nothing. So I thought that was pretty awesome. And
I love.
some of the it's hard to describe the feeling and the sensation out there, but there's some of it where it's not really memory. It's just kind of like you're doing, and you want to stay away from the current because the current can pull you out. You see the tide comes in, the tide goes out. We launched when there was low tide, and we came back in at high tide, and the current starts to grab you and pulls you out. And if you're not focused, you're gone.
That's it. You're out there.
Whitewater rafting would be something too. I haven't done that in about 25 years. When I'm 13 years old, I have no idea what flow is. Nobody knows unless you're made aware. And at that point, I don't even think it was really a thing that was talked about or written about. Outside of psychology, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
No, I know what you mean too. Because it's funny living in Victoria when you look out when we go down to like the waterfront, and when we look out on the edge of the water, there's an island, what looks like an island with giant mountains, and that's actually Washington, and you can see it. And I'm like, I swear, when you look on a map, it looks so far away, but I'm like, I can visually see the ice on the top of those mountains. Like I can see them from here in my backyard some days when I look out, and
if that close,
it's breathtaking to look at.
that's awesome.
And
That's
then
awesome.
growing up on the East Coast, there was a lot of me sitting on the beach, just looking out at a vast emptiness of nothing, just staring out as far as your peripheral can see. There's nothing. It's just ocean for days. And there's something about that, man, that like if you're a creative kind of person, I think, and you just kind of like sit in those zones and those spaces where you can just kind of you're looking at nothing. There's no visual stimulus going on, and there's barely any sounds other than like the waves crashing, which is very meditative. And I used to do this even when I didn't meditate back in the day. I would just go and sit on the beach, and the waves just whoosh, whoosh, and I could sit there for hours and just stare out at the nothing. And in your mind, it's like pow 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 pow. The creative process is happening, things are coming and going, and you're kind of going through some shit. But being a young kid doing this, again, you don't have a framework to work with. You don't really even know what's happening or what's going on. I didn't even know that I had like, stepped out of the box. For instance, I had stepped off the grid, like that wasn't even a thing when you were a kid because it was all off grid for us anyways. Coming as a
Yeah,
guy as a guy who comes from the days before internet anyways.
hey, I'm right there with you, man. And I'll be what will I be 37 this year. So I'm right there with you. I grew up with VCRs and cell phones and cars and backpacks and that kind of thing, where they were $5,000 to buy one of these things. But
Hell yeah.
neither here nor there. Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's stay away from that one right here. But I know exactly what you mean. I mean, you're out there, and it's just you, or maybe you and a few other people in nature, and to me that's pretty exciting. And then there's also the complete opposite end of the things where I touched on a few minutes ago, where the action or high activity stuff, or like you're up on stage and you're rapping, you're finding your flow, you're flowing, and I'm on there doing it with music. But then there's when I don't know if you've ever climbed a mountain. You go mountain climbing out there in BC or not, but we did a little bit of mountain climbing in Olympic National Park, and you've got to be completely dialed in because you're on some cliffs that are a foot, maybe a foot and a half wide, and you come off that. If you don't catch yourself and you're not careful, you're going down, and you might not come back. So
Wow.
that's climbing with ropes and rocks and maybe a small ladder that's been attached 20 years ago or whatever is another one of those things. And I've never done like I was actually listening to the Joe Rogan podcast on my way home today, and James Hetfield from Metallica was on there. He was talking about 14ers up in Vail, Colorado. I thought that would be 5 steps away from where I am climbing a mountain right now.
Yeah.
To get up to a 14,000 foot peak, I need to get to a 5,000 first, and then a 10. So, but there's so many ways and so many different levels that you can kind of touch on that. For me, honestly, I don't know what your daily life is and your occupation is that you do 8, 9, 10, 12 hours a day. But for me, I'm actually in the logistics industry, and it has not very much to do with flow or flow states, but there's times during the day where I'll find myself and literally hours will go by and I'll have no idea where the time went, and I'll look at what I've produced and the productivity I've had and just go, whatever that was I was definitely in flow right there. Like I remember the feeling of it and just flying right through, and things are not getting past me. I'm not forgetting things, and everything's on point and everything's getting done. And
yeah, man, that's the ticket. That's the ticket. That's the ticket right there. And that's, I feel like, what the Flow Genome Project is kind of trying to do. They're trying to find out ways. How can we just use a trigger word to put somebody into flow state? I mean, there's got to be a way, and that's super interesting to me because, so I teach yoga and I do graphic design, a little bit of music sometimes, and I run a cleaning company as well. So very active, very physically demanding all the time, and yeah, that's my life here, anyways. And like before that, back in the days of like music and all that, I mean, there was so much partying involved that it just didn't really. This kind of stuff was like so far on the back burner with me. I mean, I started meditating when I was 9, and then kind of off and on, did it back and forth once in a while. It's kind of like people who only pray when they need something. That's kind of how meditation was with me for most of my life, just until like probably 2015. I really started like going hard at it every day, and I rarely miss a day now. And
then you became a teacher, or just a yoga instructor.
Yoga instructor, yeah, certified.
But you don't do like TM, TM instructor or anything like that?
Well, I know, and I do practice TM every day, pretty much every day. That's like hands down my favorite. Just doing the mantra meditation every day. It's so cool because, like following the breath, you go back to the breath, and you can always think about breathing. You think about lungs, and it just drums up all these thoughts. But saying a random word that has no meaning whatsoever it's so clever because it's just like dabba-doo, dabba-dee, dabba-doo, dabba-da. And I say Ramasa as my like magical secret word. And it's just one that I drew syllables from a hat and came up with Ra-ma-sa. And I just put 3 syllables together, and that's it. And I've shared that with like thousands of other people who also now use that as their TM mantra. But yeah, I find
it's a good one.
It's so cool.
It makes sense.
It
seems like it would just kind of flow and go together. Ra, ma, sa. I mean, you've got the same the ending sound. It would seem like you could just carry that on for your 20-minute session. So personally, I've been introduced and known a few people and knew a guy here in the capital of Michigan in Lansing who was I think the only certified instructor. Never followed through with it, and my meditation style is more of mindfulness meditation, following what John Kabat-Zinn put together with the 8-week program, mindfulness-based stress reduction, and then taking that into just following the breath and focusing on the breath. And I'd love to learn more about and do kind of a mantra meditation where is it easier to stay with it so your brain doesn't get all scrambled and cluttered doing a mantra?
It's easier, like I said, in the sense that it holds no meaning behind it. Whereas if you think
Okay.
some people count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but then pop, 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 the numbers 1, 2, and 3 are gonna pop up in your mind no matter what. People go back to the
Right.
breath. People always go back to something, the rise and fall of the chest. But then again, it's the rise and fall of a chest, and then, but yeah, it's easier. I think it works the same. It just prevents that one extra little step that you're adding in there. You're just kind of, it's preventative more than anything. So I don't know if it's quicker or better or anything, but I would definitely say that it definitely works. And I don't know, after struggling through the first 30 days, trying to do it, uh, I like documented it and did like a whole, like a 30-day YouTube video session with it, and I did like documented every day, like a journal after every session, morning and night. I wrote down everything that I just felt and experienced. And if I happened to miss a day for some reason, I would just write it in, like, oh, I missed today because this and this and this happened. And then it's cool because you can kind of like go back after the month and you're like, did I really need to miss it because of that? Or was that just an excuse? And I kind of found like, oh, I'm just making excuses in these different instances. But the hardest thing that happened was at the same time, construction started happening outside my house where they were tearing up the sidewalk with a jackhammer. And it started at 7 in the morning, which was right around my meditation time, which forced me to have to wake up earlier to be able to get ahead of the noisy guys outside. And that's when I discovered the magic of waking up early. So if you get up early, you can get up before kids, before spouses, partners, before your pets, before everything. You get up, you do all these quiet things. So I get up, I do my meditation in the morning, and then I do yoga in the morning, and then it's like 6 o'clock. Now it's time to start the day. And just through that, like the struggle that it took to be able to like get through like just even a 20-minute meditation session with that noise going outside was intense, because I was using binaural beats too, and I would just reach over, put the headphones on, and it's kind of like a crutch. It's kind of like you're using this other thing to help you get there. You're using an external device to help you skip forward in your meditation, basically. And I would look over in the morning. I'd be like, "Oh, my headphones are way across the room. I don't want to go all the way over there," and I would skip or just not do it. There's always an excuse. There's an obstacle in the way to not do it, and you got to
I've
overcome
got
those.
that morning myself, and I alarm goes off at 4:30, 4:45, and I can find a million excuses not to climb out of bed. It's a struggle. Even after a year of doing this, it's the same thing. 15 more minutes, I can still meditate. I can still work out. If it's my yoga day, I can do my yoga instead of my workout. I can still grab my book and sit down and read. I can still get some silent time before my before my son wakes up for school. Or now in summer, I don't have to worry about him waking up for school so much. But this is just a million things. 15 more minutes, 20 more minutes, 30 more minutes, and then before you know it, that turns into an hour. It could easily. And
Oh yeah,
there's gone.
yeah,
Then you got to try to make up for it on the back end after you get done with your for you graphic design. If you got some places to clean, you've got classes to teach. It's just harder and harder as the day progresses if you don't get it done in the morning.
exactly. Yeah,
So
I mean
I still struggle with it every single day, waking up early. I mean, it's awesome to do, and it's just a feeling of accomplishment for one. But it is it's tough. I mean, I even tried going to bed earlier to get it done, and some days it works, some days it's still a struggle to get out of bed.
Yeah, going to bed early, I guess, is the key thing. Because if you look at the evening, what is the evening really? I mean, I get it if you're spending time with your loved ones, that's great. But I mean, after like 8 or 9, like, what are you really doing? You're just pushing other people's creativity into your brain that's being filtered through business executives in Hollywood who are trying to sell you shit. So you're watching TV or movies or Netflix. It doesn't matter what it is. It's all being filtered through this same kind of executive kind of branding thing going on. And so I had to just ask myself, like, do I really going to benefit my life anymore to stay up till 11? I was one of those people who stayed up till midnight every night of the week, no matter what.
Yeah.
And I just felt, I don't know why, if I just felt like I had to. All the cool people do it, right? All the adults stay up late. Everyone does this. But no, it's like, no, what are you really accomplishing? You're not doing anything. You're not creating anything. You're just kind of sitting there letting a brainwash machine shoot beautiful colors and stories into your brain. And I mean, I'm a sucker for a good story, man. I love movies. I love series. Not a big fan of the sitcoms, like the copy paste repeat kind of thing. And
Sure. That's what sells, and that's what most people do like. I'm right there with you. I'm not a huge fan of the sitcoms, but you put a good story in there.
yeah,
You know, if it's ridiculous enough where I laugh uncontrollably, you know, I'll come back a few times. But if it's the same gag, punchline, what do they call it?
like the
Auto
set.
clap. What do they call that thing?
Well, there's laugh tracks that they put in.
That's the one. Laugh track with that's what I was thinking of. Not the auto clap, but the laugh tracks. That's
Yeah.
not my thing. So I tend to, you know, I don't want to put an elitist spin on it, but I don't really watch television unless I'm, you know, the reason I was in Washington is you know the girl I've been in a relationship with for a long time. She's in Oregon. She lives out there. So when we
wow.
get time together, we'll plug in our earbuds and we'll watch something. It's something for us to do on Netflix.
Yeah.
But I'm not the kind to sit in front of the TV, watch TV all night kind of guy. Like I'm up until 11, 12 o'clock almost every night, and it's not a matter of, well, what am I doing? Just killing time watching TV. I've found kind of the opposite. Most of the guys that I work with, guys and gals that I work with, they're in bed by like 9, 10 o'clock, and these are kids in their 20s. And I'm going, how do you guys go to bed so early? Like, how is that even possible? They ask me how I'm able to stay up so late. So I've just got a lot of life to live. I feel like there's a lot of things. You know, I'm going through the Flow Genome videos. You know, I've got 9 browsers on my window open or my computer right now, and it's, you know, Flow Genome Project, Stephen Kotler. It's all the live videos they're doing on that. Just my thing is to absorb and immerse myself into that because it's just so fascinating and incredible on what it amounts to. And you know, for me, it's reading, meditating, completing things I didn't get done during the day, and just trying to put it all together. But it is very, very easy to get distracted when you're tired on a Thursday or a Friday as the week's winding down, you know, typical work week, to just want to sit there and do nothing. And it takes a certain amount of effort.
Yeah.
And hell, man, I've fallen asleep meditating before. I'm sitting in the upright position, I'm meditating at night, and then all of a sudden I wake up, it's 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, I've fallen over on the couch, and
Yeah, man, the night one I find is the hardest one. And especially with like TM, there's no rules. It's kind of meditation for the everyday guy. It's meditation for the Homer Simpsons of the world. Like, they make it so easy. They're like, oh, you don't want to sit up? You don't want to sit in a chair? Well, then lay down and do it. Like, there's no rules. Oh, you want to stand on your head and do it? Go ahead. You want to be in a yoga pose and do it? Go ahead. You want to be driving? You want to be walking and doing it? Go ahead. Like, there's no rules. It's just kind of straightforward. Just say the mantra, you know? And, geez, but I find in the summer it's been getting harder to, like, get up as early. And I don't know why, because the sun is out earlier now. There's just something about the warmth and the sun shining through. There's just something relaxing about it. And so, like this morning, for instance, I overslept and I had a client to be at, and I had literally like 15 minutes to get there from the time I woke up. So I was like, oh shit, gotta go. And geez, what was the other thing? Oh, I had sprained my toe. I've been taking a bike everywhere lately, and I don't know what happened. Somehow my foot slipped off the pedal, and all my weight came down and landed on one toe, and it swelled up like red and kind of like got bruised and everything for 3 or 4 days, and then it kind of went away. But then I was like, oh, my toe's good now, and then I started like putting a lot more pressure on it, and then it swelled up again, turned purple again. I was like, okay, I guess it's not fixed. But
Lord, man.
because of that, I hadn't done yoga in 2 weeks because it was just paining too much. So that time that I would normally get up during that time, I was going, I don't have to get up because I got a broken toe. I can sleep it through. I have
There's another excuse for you not to wake up. Another thing. I want to touch on what you said about the nice weather. I mean, everybody knows that, you know, summer is kind of where it's at with the nice weather, of course, in most places, unless you're in well, let's call it South Georgia, Florida, parts of southern United States areas where it's just blistering hot. You don't want to go outside. But I'm going to go back to like 2005 when I was studying music over there in Minneapolis, St. Paul area, where it's freezing cold in the wintertime, but just crazy hot in the summertime. And my first real experience was seeing somebody consistently meditating, not in a classroom setting, but I would park my car like 5 blocks away, park free, and then walk to school every day. And there was a lady on her front porch with the cushions on the front porch every single morning. Whether it was raining, sunshine, cold, she'd have a jacket on, and she was out there meditating. I walked by her every day. I still, that image is in my mind every day. And I thought, this woman is the most dedicated practitioner of meditation I had seen up to that point. And I think that, I don't know, man, I don't get outside and do it very often. I'm not the greatest, poster child for consistent meditation on a daily basis. I do it every day. It's just I don't do it at the same time every day, which is not great. But getting outside and doing it, I think maybe that'll be something you can try out. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a park by my house.
Get up.
I mean,
something. I mean, you've got mountains in the background. I mean, how great of a scenery is that to open your eyes to when you're finished?
yeah, man, for sure. And there's like a park by my house that has like these massive stone walls, not like a wall that's made, just a wall of stone, like rock. And there's this literally like a chair that's been carved out just from weather and nature, and it's literally this chair up in the rock, and you can sit there and overlook the whole park. And I remember a lady was walking. I had already been there, and so like I'm new to Victoria, so I'd only been there like maybe like a month or so, and like walking the dog at the park, and I saw this little chair, and I was like, oh, it's a good place to meditate. So I would go and sit there and meditate, and then probably 3 or 4 months later, I ran into a lady, and she's like, oh, have you been to the meditator's chair? And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, it's right over here. And then she showed me this chair in the rock that I had already been meditating in. So I guess it had its it had its energies about it. It had this calling, like, come sit here and meditate. It's a beautiful space. And it's just interesting that other people, other people had seen it, and that it even had the name, the meditator's chair. Like, oh. So it's cool.
That's awesome. That is just naturally forming there. That's really cool.
Yeah. There's a few videos on my YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube /J Cole Yoga, there's some videos of it on there. And I mean, normally when I'm at the park though, I have the dog, and it's just kind of like the dog takes up all of your focus and all your attention. And there'll be those moments when I'm like, oh, this is the perfect time to just go sit and meditate. And then I think about like, well, then I got to bring the dog back home, and then I got to lock up and unlock and everything, and then walk back again. I'm like, I'll do it next time. So that's another reason why I don't try and do it outside all the time, because it's just another step. If I add another step or another block in my way, I probably won't do it. So it's been like a new theme in this last year of my life. And I say it to my best friend here. I'm always like, too many steps. And she laughs and goes, yeah, okay. So yeah, I think that also, that might come into play into like the whole, like into finding flow. Like, let's remove all the obstacles first. Let's try and not have as many obstacles in life that we need to even remove them. Let's just try and figure out another way. So little things like that, I think, can help.
I think that's a great thing and a great start. I'm surprised that you're. I don't know what kind of dog you have. I don't know if it's a high energy dog or not, but that dog doesn't just kind of chill out and lay down next to you.
No,
especially after you've gone for a walk.
No, it's a beagle.
You got a perfect time.
It's a beagle, high energy.
Okay.
All the way.
Yeah.
So cool.
Set it loose on some rabbits or something, right?
They have them. They have them in the park here. Now they have these little clusters of vegetation, which are mostly blackberry bushes. And if you know anything about a blackberry bush, is that they're all thorns. So the rabbits live in these little clusters of thorns that they've managed to get in, so that really none of the dogs will go in there, because they only need to go in once, and then they learn their lesson about the little thorn patches. And she chases them, but she doesn't know what to do. She gets a little close, and then the rabbit just gone like light speed. and then she's like, "Oh wow, what was that?" So I don't think she would even know what to do with it if she caught one. Just kind of corner it in the corner, I guess. And, yeah.
Uh, Probably never experienced that unless you actually take her out and go hunting with her. But yeah, I mean, she'll probably just run around the bushes and bark and who knows? Who knows? So,
Yeah, geez. So it's
so I've
my
never been up to.
it's
Go
a
ahead.
sorry, it's my friend's dog, and she's like they let her loose one time, and I think it was buffalo. There was buffalo in Alberta. I think it was buffalo or the bison or some of those big, big hairy animals that they have out there. And they let the dog go, and the dog ran down like a mountainside and chased like hundreds of these buffalo, and she started like rounding them up like a herding dog. Just nature took over, and she's like, I have to do this. And she just ran out and started scaring the shit out of these giant creatures
Oh,
instead of
that's
going
awesome.
around and rounded them all up into like a little herd. So that was kind of cool. I mean,
Are you
I
kidding? They didn't do it. They just kind of let it happen, huh?
they just let it happen, because it's this loud yappy thing running around
Wow.
your feet, snapping and barking, and you're just like, oh, geez, better not step there. And then I guess that whole like mob mentality takes over, and they all they're all like, well, this is what we're doing now. We're all hurtling together. Everybody cuddle a little bit closer. I don't know why the guy on the end said we should do it. Let's keep cuddling, because you get
That's
like,
right. That's right.
one.
Hey, let's all get closer. No, this is what we're doing. Hey, this is what we're doing. It's that hive mind that everybody, somebody else is doing it. Let's follow the herd. It's like that patterns when geese fly north or south. Why do they fly in a V? I don't know. I haven't read anything recently about it, but last I knew, they just didn't know. They just do, and there's always one lead goose that just is. So, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, the interesting thing about the like geese flying is that for the longest time we thought like all animals there's like an alpha male or an alpha who would lead the whole crew. But with geese and ducks and birds that fly in like that V formation, they need to take turns because the guy in the front is breaking the wind and making it easier on the next two, which make it easier on the next ones. So the one from the front, he'll eventually curl around to the back, and the next one will move up and take the front spot in order
Are
to.
you kidding me?
No, it happens the whole time they fly. And then the other thing that happens is that they vote. They have a voting system, and it's based off of twitches and little flutters of their eyes and the way their necks and heads move. And this voting system determines on if they're going to go left or if they're going to go right or keep going forward. So the whole group votes. And as soon as it gets beyond a 50% vote, then that's the direction they take. And a lot of animals actually in the forest do that. Lions have been found to do that as well as different. I think it was gorillas were found doing that too, where you think that
Wow.
it's the alpha that dictates everything, who's like the leader, but no, they're just the big protector, and they all have this voting system that was discovered again, like I said, through eye twitches, little very subtle things that would finally determine. They're all like all the lions' ears would flutter, brr, 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 then they would all get up and move, and sometimes the alpha would still stay behind because maybe he didn't want to go, and he would just stay there, and he'll be the last to get up and go, okay, I guess that's what we're doing, and then he would go.
That's incredible. I've
Yeah,
never heard that before.
yeah. It's
Never
a
ever. Well, here we go. Here's a lesson today. Well, at least I've learned something. Hopefully, those that are listening or that will listen will learn something too.
yeah.
That's
Hopefully,
awesome.
yeah. Jeez, I don't know where I
That's
learned
crazy.
that. I don't know where I learned that. It was on some lengthy documentary that I had seen a long time ago, and I had suspicions about it though the whole time. I was like, really, one guy's in charge of everything? Like that seems a bit foolish, especially in the animal kingdom. I mean, why would one be the wise one who knows better? Just because he's bigger and
Yeah.
stronger, that doesn't mean that he has all the knowledge of what berries to eat or, where to forage next or where the migration pattern's gonna go. Like that's not really up to one guy or girl.
Well, what you're saying makes sense. I mean, it doesn't work in the human world. I mean, we've seen it time and time again in history where one person is in control, tries to take control, comes into control, and that doesn't do well for very long.
Oh man,
So I would, as we're all just animals anyway. So it makes
yeah,
complete sense.
yeah. One of the things that I noticed, and I've only ever seen this, I only ever saw this in LA. was that we were out at a bar one night and someone of our whole crew got in a fight with someone. Like there was a discrepancy, there was a shuffle, a push, a shove, or something. And to just watch everyone, like everyone was like really cool, really chill, everyone was vibing really cool, and just this one guy got in a little shuffle, and the whole group just freaks out. And now they're all angry and fighting. And I was just like, I had watched this like animal instinct, this like this mob thing just like totally take over everybody. And I don't know if it's because like I don't want to say it was a geographic thing or I don't know what, but being the Canadians of the group, me and my buddy were just kind of like standing there and we watched this whole thing happen. We're like, okay, so that guy got mad, and then that guy got mad only because this guy was mad, and then his girlfriend got mad because the other girl got mad, and then everyone just kind of got mad, and we watched it happen and went up in this big rise, and then some fists were thrown, and then everybody ran away, and we were just standing there left alone. We're like, what just happened? Like all of our friends are gone, everybody's gone. It just ghosted, just vanished like that. It's like, man.
Everybody's trying to protect the other guy. You know, your girlfriend's got to stand up for her boyfriend, and vice versa, and then you got to stand up for your best bud or your best mate, and you know you got to defend the honor or whatever the situation is, and you can't let two people get involved. You have to
Everyone
step in. You know, like a maternal or paternal instinct. You got to protect, you know, somebody else. It's crazy. So,
but
I thankfully and gratefully have never really been involved in that many fights. I haven't really seen that many of them. I mean, surprisingly, I worked as a security at a bar for a couple of years, some years back, and saw a lot of other crazy shit, but never really saw any fights. So,
wow, man, good for you.
which was very surprising considering, I mean, it wasn't like a dive bar. It was more of an upscale restaurant bar, like a sushi bar, but they had a ton, lots of booze flowing, lots of people there, packed, standing room only almost every night.
Yeah.
And you'd see people get upset, but it was shut down pretty quick. And but like I said, there was other crazy shit going on there. So
Yeah.
we'll
Well, hey,
talk
man.
about that at a different time.
No, well, hey, I mean, as someone who's been in, thousands and thousands of bars myself playing, I've seen it all go down. I bartended for a couple of years too, so I also saw through that lens of a bartender's eyes. And the thing is that there's these venues that have this energy attached where people want to go there to fight. Like this is like I have a fight in me. I'm a scrapper. I'm feeling really scrappy. We're gonna go to the Fox and the Hound because the Fox and the Hound is where a fight's gonna go down. I don't care who it is. I don't care what.
I've heard that do that.
Like and it's not even because I mean there's places where people go, like you said, that sushi bar, the booze is flowing, everybody's having a good time, we're all there to have a good time. And then I think there's these places where people are like specifically going to not have a good time, or in to flip this a little bit, because I'm speaking specifically about the east coast of Canada in a province called New Brunswick, which has a lot of like hillbilly kind of people who, not having the good time, throwing a few rounds of fists, that's what they like to do on a Saturday night. That's fun for them. So that's a good time. So it's like, you know what? That's why they're attracted to go to these places, to have those kinds of experiences. Whew, that was a mouthful.
That's crazy. I guess just being from the Midwest and never really experienced that. I mean, there definitely, from what you said, there's definitely places not too far from where I live that, like you said, you're gonna go to the Fox and the Hound. You're gonna go to Rags. You're gonna go to these places that there's a better than 50% chance you're gonna start throwing fists or you're gonna get punched in the face, and it's just gonna happen, whether or not you're drinking, somebody else is, and you might give somebody's girl the wrong look or say something, be a smart ass to somebody, and they're just waiting for one trigger.
That's like that's the funny part too, is that it doesn't even matter what it is. It could be a bumped into somebody's shoulder. You might have cut someone off in line at the bar. You got your order first. You might have just looked across the room at somebody you're not supposed to look at, that you didn't even know you're not supposed to look at them. Little stupid things. Oh, your foot scuffed my foot. Like, let's scrap now, or whatever they say. could tell. I'm not a fighter
Don't
either.
they,
I'm not.
I don't think they say let's scrap now. I'm pretty sure that you just took that out of like a PG Hollywood playbook or something. I don't know where you got that one, but that. No, it's probably a little more vulgar and volatile than that. But yeah, it's weird to me. I've never been never been part of that scene. I mean, I honestly can't say I've been in a fight since shit. I was probably in 8th grade. Last time I was in a real actual fist fight.
Oh no, no.
Thankfully, I don't know. I'd probably get my ass kicked. Who knows? I'd like to think I'd do all right, but I don't have enough practice to say otherwise.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that people who are conversationalists can usually, explain our way out of things. We can usually talk our way out. We can usually use reason and logic to explain to someone, like, look, man, I'm not part of this throw fists for fun group. That's these guys over here, so please leave me out of it. It's like, oh, you're not here for the fight? Oh, okay, sorry, buddy. I thought you were here to throw some fists like the rest of us. Maybe you should go to a different bar downtown.
Right.
And you end up making friends with people that way too sometimes.
Yeah. Well, what are you doing in Nova Scotia? Get out of here. We're going to throw fists. We're going to start fighting. You can kick your ass. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's, maybe most of us, I feel like James Earl Jones on The Field of Dreams sometimes. You ever see that movie?
Oh, yeah.
He talks about Kevin Costner's up there, and he says, he's like knocking on his door, and he says something about being a pacifist, and he says, peace, love, dope, now get the hell out of here, Sometimes that's how I feel. Like, I want to just be left alone, you chill, but you just can't get somebody to leave you alone. So you're just like, get the hell out of here, otherwise I'm not going to be so happy and so peaceful.
Yeah. Man, that's an interesting quote to remember from that. I mean, the most people take from that is if you build it, they will come. I mean, that's been
that's been like one too, but I'll never forget that. Just that what he says about. I don't know why that's. You see, it's weird what sticks with you and what doesn't. Other people have probably seen that movie 100 times and don't remember that quote.
Yeah.
It's strange. It's really strange. And then some people can watch one movie one time and literally recall the entire film, every scene, every bit of dialogue, how the characters are standing. But I really don't know, Jason. I don't know why that one stuck with me. Maybe because I thought it was funny when I was 14 that somebody would say peace, love, dope, now get the hell out of here. I don't know. Who knows?
It sounds like a t-shirt. We should probably have that made pretty soon.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, we should. There's all kinds of ironic t-shirts out there. Throw them up on your Facebook page. You're probably sell them for $10 a piece.
So everyone head on over to jcoleyoga.ca. We'll have that shirt available by the end of the week.
It'll be a limited time only because the Paramount Pictures or whoever it is will probably shut it down at some point. But,
they're going to catch on
while they're hot. Limited time only. Limited edition. There you go.
Limited edition. This special fabric was woven from angels' wings. The feathers often fall down from heaven, and we collect these angel feathers and had them spun into a fabric. That is what this shirt is going to be made out of. So it's very limited, very, I don't know where I'm going with this. We're just screwing around. There's not really going to be a t-shirt, so I'm not going to take this joke any further.
Well, somebody would, if you claimed it was Angel's Wings, man, somebody would say, oh, I got to have it. But, yeah, that's whatever it is. So how did you come to be from New Brunswick over into Victoria, BC, man? How did you shift all the way to the West Coast?
Oh, my God. So it got to a point living on the East Coast, Atlantic Canada, which we call the Maritimes, and everybody talks like this, like little leprechauns by. Because there's a lot of Scottish and Irish. No, everyone really has a weird little... They got a diddly accent to them, and everybody talks really fast. And the further east you go, the faster they talk. And as you get up into the highlands, like up into the mountains, it just gets weirder and weirder and weirder. And then dialects change, and there's different words for different things, and it's kind of like going to like Australia or something, like where everything's just so awkward and different. And so anyways, after having enough of just living my life down there, doing all that. I mean, I had lived in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. I'd lived there for a few years in Ontario. And I would go back home, and I would go back to Ontario, and then go back east again. And I had an opportunity to go to Los Angeles. So I sold everything I owned, Hopped on a plane, went to LA, got off the plane. This was 2014, October 31st, so it's Halloween night. I step off the plane, we go down to Venice Beach, and I played a rap show within an hour of landing on the dirt US soil. First time there. So I'm down rocking this rap show that my buddy had already set up like weeks before. So that was really cool. And yeah, I just hung out in LA. We did, I don't know, LA stuff. This is where I really got into a solid meditation routine every day and doing yoga every day. And it's kind of like walking along Venice Beach. I lived right down on Venice, probably 5 blocks up from the beach itself. And that just, I don't know, just became like beach rap guys. We did music videos, we made websites for people, we did graphic design just to stay alive. I ended up staying an extra 6 months that I wasn't allowed to stay, beyond, like, because you're allowed 6 months to visit, and then after that you need like extra documentation or something like that. And I just stayed.
Okay.
I was like, whatever, I'll just stay, and if they catch me, they catch me. But then what was going to happen was my passport was going to expire. So I had already stayed 6 months extra. If I went down to the Canadian embassy, if I would have walked into the embassy doors, they would have said, "Oh, you've been here 6 months too long. Like, what are you doing?" So I would have been caught. And in order to get a new passport, I have to actually be in Canada to get it mailed to you. So like I had really no way of getting this thing remedied, and it was going to cost, if I went through the embassy, it was going to cost an extra $300 on top of the price that it normally, the $120 that it costs to get your passport. So that was it. I just had to decide to flee, and I left. And I was like, well, I can go back east and do all that again and go down those same roads that I've been down, or I could go to the West Coast where I had some friends living out in Alberta. So I went out to Alberta, linked up with some friends there. We ended up ditching Alberta and driving down to British Columbia, and that's it. The story's over. Goodbye, everyone.
And there you are.
And there I was, and here I am
So,
now.
with you being down there in Venice Beach and then going back to Canada, if you wanted to get an extension or whatever they call it, I'm kind of ignorant to the whole passport, going in, living in another country for extended period of time thing. Wouldn't you'd have to cross back over with an expired passport? Is that even? Did you have to like?
So I left.
I'm gonna sound like a here, but did you have to like sneak back over to get back to Canada? Like I said, I'm gonna sound like an idiot because I don't know. But
so technically, I left like within like 20 days of the passport expiring, so that was still okay. So it hadn't fully expired, but it was going to, and it was going to cause a lot of money and cause a lot of issues and troubles. And I didn't know, man. I didn't know if I was going to walk in and be like, "Oh, I need a passport," and if I don't know what they would do in LA, if they would just throw me in an LA jail for being there as an illegal alien for 6 months. I don't know if that's what would happen. I don't know if they would let me go home and get my stuff and then get on the plane. I don't know if they would just throw me in handcuffs and throw me on a plane and send me to Vancouver. I don't know. And I didn't really want to risk it. But here's what happened. So on the plane, a stewardess comes. I was in the washroom, and a stewardess had come by and threw some papers on my seat. And I didn't know what they were. The papers were if you have to claim anything from the duty free or any duty tax things to claim. And I didn't really understand what the papers were. So I stuffed them in the seat in front of me. Got off the plane. I'm in the Vancouver airport. I'm going through, I get to the customs area, and the woman there is like, "Well, where's your papers?" And I was like, "Oh, what papers?" She goes, "Well, the stewardess left them on your seat."
Oh, shit.
And I was like, "Oh, I threw that shit in the garbage, yo." And she's like, "What?" And now she's angry. She's like, "Oh, you're going to have to go all the way over there." And she points. It's literally like 10 feet away. "And get the blue form and fill it out." And I'm like, okay. So like I go over, I get the blue form. Quickly, I look at it, I'm like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. No. $0, $0. I go right back to her. She's like, oh. So she didn't even take my passport to look at it. That was the stage, and that was the woman who would have caught me. But because of that little kerfuffle with the papers, with the documents, it didn't happen. So she didn't even check my passport. If she would have checked, oh shit, you've been in the States for a year, like,
Pissed
bro,
her
you're
off so
in some
much.
trouble.
You pissed her off so much she let you in for free. She didn't even care. You made her so. It seems like she was unnecessarily angry at you for throwing away some papers that probably don't really affect her that much. I mean, did it make her life harder? I don't know. It seems crazy.
No, because I mean, all I had to do was like literally
But,
step
I mean,
10 feet to the left, and that was it. And yeah,
There's your little blessing right there. You screwed up. You threw away the papers or left them in the seat pocket in front of you, and she was like, "All right, whatever. You've pissed me off. Just get out of here."
yeah, exactly. Like, and it's funny to get angry about something like, oh, I just didn't have a paper in my hand. Oh, and that's the paper right there. I can almost reach it from at your desk, and you're angry right now.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, what are they putting these people through at the airport? These poor people. And I try and always go back to that. I'm okay. This is a person. This is a real person.
Yep.
And this person used to be a baby. If you can just tell yourself
Yeah.
that all the time, this used to be a baby. And now look at them.
And then you wonder what happened to them that day or that week that put them in that position. Like maybe they just had some dickhead who really pissed them off and did something that was way beyond for getting some papers. But yeah, exactly. You think about it. It's funny that you say that, and it's funny that we're doing this podcast. The last, I don't know, year and a half or so, I've devoted a tremendous amount of time to listening to podcasts, and never really listened to Joe Rogan before, but I've listened to like 4 of them. Actually, Steven Kotler was on there. I just finished that one this morning at like 7 o'clock. I finished listening to that one. And he was talking about exactly what you said. And, you know, he says, I'm in this kick where I have to remember that everybody at one point was a baby, right? This shitty old man who's buying booze in front of me at this liquor store, and he's only got like $4 to his name, and he's homeless, and he's buying this booze. But at one point, he was a baby living in a home with somebody else. And then there's, because he does a lot of stuff with UFC and fighters. These fighters were at one time a baby, and never would have thought, and their parents probably never thought, I'm going to train my son to be a championship fighter someday. It's crazy when you put that in perspective, and you think about everybody out there at one point was a baby.
Everyone was
going goo goo gaga, crapping their diapers,
And now to take it a step further, you got to be standing in that airport, and you got to visualize a baby in front of you, and the baby is wearing this woman's outfit and has her glasses on and is scribbling with a pen and looks up angrily at you, and it's like, oh, I see, you just didn't get enough hugs today. That's what's going on. Oh,
yeah. Just giving her a hug. Next time you're in the Vancouver airport, you need to seek out that woman and give her a hug.
I definitely will, because here in Canada, that's all we do. We just hug, and we say "a," and we say thank you. And that's it. That's literally all we do.
I'm gonna say they wouldn't have arrested you and thrown you in an LA jail. They would have put you in handcuffs. They would have put you in a private Canadian jail cell, and they would have given you I don't know, tea and crumpets. That sounds.
So,
who the hell knows?
Hopefully, a bottle of maple syrup.
Giving you a book to read.
Maple syrup and maybe like a lobster.
I don't know what the hell that is, but sure, we'll go with it.
Maybe a beaver, a moose, and a bottle of maple syrup and some Tim Hortons coffee. I'd been all right. I would have been okay with that.
Now you're talking.
I would have been okay.
You're talking what do they call it? Tim Donut Hole, whatever they call them?
Yeah, the Timbits. They call them just,
there you go.
Just
That's
bits,
what I was, yeah.
Timbits. But hey, man, if that was the reality of it, I would have left. I would have not cared about going back home to get all of my belongings. I would have just went to that jail cell and done that. That would have been great. That would have made it a cool podcast story to talk about someday.
I feel like a lot of people. Hell yeah, I feel like a lot of people would have faked being Canadian if that was the outcome. I'm serious, man. A lot of people. Shit, man. You give me Tim Butts. There's a whole other story. Timbits, coffee, a beaver, a bear, or a buffalo, or a moose rather, and then shit, man. That's a lot of people would take that any day over an LA jail, I'm sure.
Hell yeah.
This country went mad, dude. The places where I've lived, when Tim Hortons was introduced, it went mad. People went crazy for Tim Hortons.
Wow. Man.
Yeah.
So what did you guys have before? You had like Dunkin' Donuts? Was that like a thing? Is that what you had?
Yeah, we've had. Well, I guess there's a lot of your regional specialties here. We're in Michigan. Well, we'll go. Dunkin' Donuts was around for a long time, and I'm pretty sure they still have a few of them around nationwide. But I mean, Starbucks over on the West Coast there, started in Seattle and just exploded everywhere. And those are everywhere, anywhere you go. And then there's like the regional stuff. There's a place here, started in West Michigan, here in Grand Rapids, my hometown, where for years it actually started out as Beaner's Coffee, because coffee comes from beans.
Yeah.
A la Beaner's Coffee. Well, Beaner is also a derogatory term, a slang term for a Hispanic.
Oh.
So
Wow.
they managed to have that name, and I don't know who came up with it. Like I said, the explanation was, well, coffee comes from beans. It's Beaner's Coffee. Well, eventually they got to a certain level where they couldn't call it Beaner's Coffee anymore. And
Wow.
they had to legally change it to Big B Coffee. So now we have Big B in kind of the Midwest, Michigan. I think it branches out into like Indiana, Ohio, maybe Illinois. But that's kind of the big thing around here. You got Big B, Dunkin' Donuts is around, Starbucks is everywhere, and then you've got Tim Hortons is starting to get some traction around here. And then there's all just the local specialty. You want to open a gourmet premium coffee shop, a hipster joint or whatever. That you can have that. But I mean, if you ever get into the Midwest area, I mean, there's Pete's, Peets, Pete's Coffee. I mean, there's Caribou Coffee up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, probably in the Dakotas. So I mean, it just depends on where you are.
Yeah. Wow.
And then now they've expanded everything where you can buy the whole beans or grind, and you can go to the supermarket, grocery store and buy it. So
Yeah,
let's talk regional weird words for a minute. I want to go down this path here, and let's just shift here. So you guys, obviously, you've got shopping carts up there. What do you call shopping carts?
shopping carts.
You call them shopping carts?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because in like the Northeast, you get like Massachusetts, Maryland, that kind of thing. They call them buggies.
A buggy? No. I mean, geez, that would be maybe an older. I can picture like one of my old aunts maybe calling it a buggy. Go get a buggy. Go get a push. Oh, a push cart. They call it a push cart. Shopping cart.
I've heard them referred to as wire baskets. My brother and his family are up from South Georgia, and we were having this discussion. Somehow we always end up talking about weird shit when he's up here, and they were talking about what they call grocery carts, shopping carts, and they were, I don't know if they call them wire baskets or something like that, or I don't know. It was something weird like that. And it's like more of a descriptive term rather than a noun of a thing. Like, go get the wire basket. Like, all right.
Okay. So we're going to the hardware store first to get a wire basket, I guess?
Well, you got to go to the hardware store to get the wire. You need to get some wire cutters. You need a soldering iron to solder it all together. So, let's just do this whole thing.
Now, how do you get those, what I don't understand, how do they get the braking mechanism put in them so people can't steal them? Do you guys have that now?
I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
No?
so they don't just run off with the carts?
Yeah, so people will steal shopping carts because the weight is worth so much money in aluminum that you can get a lot of money if you bring it to a recycle place. Or,
That's a hole for aluminum, man, because aluminum's not that expensive.
well, if you think about like homeless people who are out collecting pop bottles and shit like that, if they can get a shopping cart, it's like, whoa, that's a lot of weight to that metal. And they can they can fill it with more pop cans and bring it to the recycle place and then also recycle the cart too. So this is like such a big thing that happens around here. I mean, and I don't just mean maybe it's a coastal thing because I've only been on the 2 coasts in Canada, but it happens a lot that all the grocery stores, you can't leave the parking lot with your cart. The wheels lock up. There's some kind of electromagnetic system in place that the wheels just, that's it. They don't spin. All 4 wheels lock up. And I mean, if you are the guy who maybe had to park at the far end of the parking lot, sometimes your wheels might lock up before you get to the end. So I don't know. It's just a
So
theft.
you got two options at that point. You have to either bring your car to the cart, or you have to just hand carry all your groceries back and forth to the car.
Yeah, like a couple at a time.
That sucks, man. That sucks. We don't have that here. I always say we're kind of spoiled in Michigan. I don't know. Again, geographically, obviously I know where Canada is, but I don't know, coins and returns and refunds and stuff. But in Michigan, we've got a 10-cent refund for any aluminum, carbonate, basically any carbonated beverage, whether it's beer or pop.
Right.
You can take it back. You pay a 10-cent deposit when you buy, so you buy a 12-pack for whatever, and there's 10 cents per can added to that, so an extra $1.20 a can or a pack. And when you return it, you get 10 cents back for returning the can. And part of it is, recycling. They're able to clean and reuse the aluminum, and it also, keeps people from throwing shit all over the streets and a lot of trash and littering and that. But other states have 5-cent ones, and then there's states that have none of them. And for example, in Texas years ago, I was tubing down a river, and you get a lot of beer and pop and everything. They would have boats periodically on the side of the river. They would be roped to trees, and you could throw your cans in the boat.
Oh.
And then at the end of every day, a group of people would come by, unload the boats, and they would take them to a recycling facility. But I don't know that stealing shopping carts is a big thing to recycle here. I've seen them on the side of the highway before a few times. I've seen people, homeless folks walking around with them to keep all their stuff in, but I wasn't aware that was a problem. People stealing carts and trying to turn them in for, whatever the weight in the metal is. I know that there's one store around here called Aldi. I don't know how far they reach, but they have a system. You got to put a quarter in the little, where the handle is. The
yeah.
carts lock into each other.
Yeah.
And you have to pop a quarter in there, and it releases the little.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, we have one grocery store back east that does that.
So you walk around, and if you want to get your quarter back, you have to put the cart back to where it belongs. Otherwise, you just you lose a quarter. But everywhere else around here, like the main grocery stores or whatever, and you just take it, and they have these little things, throughout the parking lot, in between parking spaces, where you can. If you're the guy who gets stuck at the way end of the parking lot, you might only have to go 10 or 15 feet to return your cart to, they call them a cart corral, and then they have people that come out throughout the day and collect them. So I'm not aware that that's a common problem here in Michigan of stealing shopping carts. That's kind of crazy.
Well, when we were kids, we used to go to that same shopping mall, to that grocery store, and we would go out into the parking lot, and we would take all the carts and put them back in the corral and plug them back in, and we would get all those quarters. And then we would go to the arcade. I mean, it was like
a hell of a deal, man.
It was an extra
Get
little.
You being an enterprising man.
You clean up, you clean up the parking lot for the grocery store. You get some change. You get to kill a Saturday afternoon playing some cool arcade games. I wish they still had arcades, because those were fun. And
that's another thing. That's another generational thing right there. I mean, you have to go to you might go to a bowling alley or something that has other activities where you can play a couple of arcade games, but they just don't have arcades anymore.
No. And I mean, it was the same games that you could rent on the weekend. You could rent them for your Nintendo. Well, they would have them arcade style, which the graphics were a little bit better. The controls were a little bit better because you have that joystick and everything, and the A/B button or whatever.
But you're at the arcade, man. You're there with your friends. You pump, $5 into there. You can play for, 6 hours or whatever, depending on how good you are. And then you have other people. You can have little tournaments and stuff, and you get loaded up, sugared up on pop and candy and whatnot. So
yep.
It beats the house. I mean, now that it's so far gone, the graphics and the every aspect of home gaming.
Oh, it's like movie. It's getting like movie quality now, which is really cool. And
some of the stuff is. I mean, they have the scenes in between the actual activities. The part of the game we have to play. It's just storylines. It's movies, and it's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, and they're hiring like Hollywood actors now to voice these things, and they're like using their actual faces like scanned in to the computers, which is really cool. I mean, I suck so bad at games that I just can't do it. But I love to watch a game. If somebody's good, I can sit and watch them for hours, and I can just space out and watch them play if they're good at it. The only thing I can do is like Grand Theft Auto. I can drive around aimlessly, not doing missions. I can just drive, get out, take another car, and just drive. That's pretty much all I will ever do with a video game. Until they get into this like ocular implants where I'm gonna have some kind of like 3D virtual reality experience. Then
Sure.
I'm definitely down for that kind of stuff. That would be really
Well, that's
cool.
right. VR became such a huge thing in the last couple of years, and I think it's just going to go so far beyond, where it is, and probably, I'm sure there's some people, reaching the outer limits of what they feel could be what it turns into, but most people are just kind of like, oh, it's a cool gaming toy tool thing. I think it's incredible. I didn't know what the hell it was when I went to a cell phone store one time and they had the thing. And I'm just like, oh, this is kind of cool. And the guy's telling me about it. And I guess I'm kind of old school where I'll use it to text and talk and do some emails and whatnot now. But I was just walking around the small section of the store and it blew my mind that I'm walking around this virtual universe with this freaking thing on my head, seeing another world, and I'm inside of a damn store. So I thought that was cool. I would probably get sucked in and be driven like a drug addict if they had that and I could afford that for something in my house. I don't know that I would ever leave.
I went and got the Google Cardboard, which is you lock your cell phone in and it goes in sideways. And then there's apps that you download that have a special screen
Okay.
on them that put a split screen so that it goes through the cardboard. And it's literally a piece of cardboard that folds into a box and your cell phone slides in and there's a little button on the side. And what the button does is it has like an I don't want to say electromagnetic, but it's got some kind of like magnetic strip so that when it touches your screen, it connects the static of your finger through the ground of the earth into the screen to actually make a tap on your screen. So a tap on the screen might equal the gun firing once. So you'll have like, and I mean the graphics were really good, and I was like, okay, I see where this is going. There's still a little bit pixelated in some spots. Out of your peripheral, it gets a little blurry sometimes, but I'm like, just some little tweaking, some fine tuning, and I can see where this is going. Also, I'm running this from a free app I downloaded on the App Store on my phone. So let's not get too crazy here. Let's not expect too much. But what I did see was so impressive that I'm like, wow, just a few little tweaks, and you can definitely see where it's going to go someday. And I had this like Mario game where it's a knockoff. So it wasn't really Mario, but in the game you're literally like Mario, and you're jumping on these little creatures, and you have to jump with this thing on your head and land on these guys. And everywhere you look, it like if I look to the left, the character I am would just start walking to the left, and if I look to the right, he would just start slowly walking to the right. And then there'd be like a crevice you'd have to jump over. You jump over that and climb up onto these blocks and collect the coins and everything. It's really cool. I can't remember the name of it. I was going through this phase. I would download like 20 of these games, and one of them would be cool, and then and then I would just delete that too eventually and forget about it. But that's gonna be the
So what you've just told me is what I explained to you 5 minutes ago is going to be ultimately the death of me and would cause me to never leave my house. I'm going to find this thing, I'm going to buy it, link into it, and nobody will ever hear from me again.
yeah. The best is like sitting on a wheelie chair in the middle of your room. So put everything out of the room and sit on a wheelie chair, something that you can just kind of like jump up a little bit, just with your bum and your legs, because it only takes
Wow.
a little jump to make the characters jump inside these things or whatever. And because man, I started in the center of the room, and within like what I thought was 3 hops, I banged into the wall like 10 feet away. So like it's such a weird perspective that's going on because you're totally immersed in this other realm, in this other world, and so your immediate environment is gone. And if you put headphones on, the headphones totally take over. They block out all the reality around you, so you're just kind of like giving her that way, like poo, 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 and you're totally getting
I gotta check this out, man. I've got it. This has been an altering perspective for me in looking at this because I'm on their website right now, scrolling through the Google Cardboard website, and they've got so many different types of these things. Some of them look like fancy binoculars. Some of them look like ski goggles.
yeah. Yeah.
Some of them is just, it's literally the cardboard. It's a cardboard cutout.
Yep.
It looks like cardboard, like a box.
Yep. It's made out of cardboard.
This is, oh
I
man,
thought
yeah, it's
mine.
too bad Father's Day. Too bad Father's Day's already come and gone, man. If I'd have known about this, I might have had a gift to ask for.
Hey man, it's only like they're like $8 at Walmart.
See, these ones on here are a lot fancier than $8 Walmart ones, and because I see some of these are like, 40, $50. But yeah, I mean, if you're just looking at the cardboard box, I can see where it'd be like $8.
It does,
So
but it like
maybe that's what I'm. Maybe I need to take a journey down to the store and we'll check it out.
see the thing is that those other ones they do the exact same thing that the cardboard does. Aside from, I think the cardboard I had to hold it up to my face the whole time. Whereas those other
Okay.
ones strap right around your head. That's kind of cool to not have to hang on to it all the time. But if you're just trying to test it out just to see, don't go all the way to like 50, $80 one. Just get the cardboard just to try it out. And then download a few of these cardboard apps. And when you go to the App Store, you just type in Google Cardboard game or app or something like that. And then it brings up the hundreds and hundreds of Google Cardboard games that have been made just for the cardboard.
That's cool.
Then they get into these other games for like the HTC Vive and all that other stuff, like the more advanced systems.
Damn.
And then you get into paying like, $20 for an app or something like that. But I don't know if I
Yeah,
would
be
want
careful.
to I don't know if I'd want to run my cell phone ragged like that cuz I mean, I've got a huge display on my phone. How big is that thing? Okay, I thought there was a ruler right here. What is that? It's like 6
You have
inches.
the
Six-
Note 8.
it's about that big, yeah. Yeah. It's big. And it's got retina display, it does 4K video and all that. So like it's really high def. So it looks really good when I slide it into the cardboard. I tried my brother's iPhone. Didn't quite work as well. The screen was so small.
Okay.
That split screen thing that happens, you need to line up the split screen perfectly in the center of your nose inside the cardboard structure. And the iPhone, for whatever reason, their screen is like bumped up to the side because that little button at the bottom, that one button. So it didn't allow it to
Yeah.
lock in
Yeah.
perfectly into place, and I had to keep moving it the whole time. So there's just little things like that I don't know.
Yeah, minor inconveniences for this high tech thing that we're talking about.
Yeah,
So I guess your brother just buy a fancier phone is what he needs.
I guess, yeah. iPhone's not doing too well, are they? I hear I've only had one and I didn't like it. I had it for about a month and I didn't like it at all. And it's one of those weird things. You're either an Apple guy or you're not an Apple guy. You get hooked on it. You get hooked on their weird little things that they put out there for you, and that becomes the thing and the reason why you stay with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you get used to the one thing, it's hard to switch over. I mean, I've never tried to switch over to an Apple, but enough people have them where I've used them before, and God, just the one button on the bottom is super simplistic, but it always takes me a second using the Samsung Galaxy phones where they have the little home box at the bottom, and then they have the back button where you can just back out of whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist on the iPhone, so you're either, like you said, you're either an Apple iPhone guy or you're not an iPhone guy. So it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, hey man, geez, we're past an hour there now, so I got some things I got to do. I'm sure you got some things you got to do.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. One more question. What was the band that you were in? What was your band name called?
I was in a lot of bands, but the one we got the most traction with, and I say that with a grain of salt, because I say we had probably the most following. I wouldn't say we had more than a couple hundred Facebook fans or whatever, but there was one called Engines of Chaos, and they're still in existence today.
Ooh.
West Michigan band playing like Grand Rapids, Lansing, Battle Creek, Kalamazoo, Michigan. I don't think they really scope beyond there, but I stepped away from that a long time ago. Family stuff, couple of kids, wife, and things needed to take priority over that. But there's some YouTube videos on there, some low res stuff. We're talking like 6-7 years ago before Retina displays and 4K and all that. So if you really want to take the time, you can YouTube it and you can see it. But yeah, Engines of Chaos was the big one, and there was a bunch of just other stuff where we did independent, created our own music, and it was more progressive, long, 10, 12-minute songs type stuff. But if you're like 80s hair metal, 70s Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Kiss, that kind of stuff, that's mostly what we did.
Nice.
So it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome.
So,
yeah, I'm definitely.
What's your rap name? It's not Jason Cole. What did you go by?
I went by Intuit, like intuition, and
okay.
Because I'm into it. And then I was in a band called Element Control for about 6 years. For about 6 years, and then and again, this is before the days of Facebook and internet and all that. I mean, there was internet, but it was before real social media had taken over. And
so you were just AOL chat rooms.
We did like I don't know. People said it sounded like a cross between like Tribe Called Quest and Beastie Boys.
Really?
So that's kind of like old schooly kind of.
I'm gonna have to. Is there anything on YouTube of your group?
If you search Element Control, I think there's one. It's a video, and it's got like an EK on it, and it's just a logo on the screen, and it's me and one of the guys from the band together, and then yeah, that's right. Our DJ made the instrumental for that one too. That's right. I was wondering, I'm like, why did we? Because normally, if I have a song, I might release it under my name, or the other guy releases under his name. But then when all of us come together, we would always, even after the band had stopped being a band, when all of us would come together, we would still make a song and release it under the old band name. So yeah, Element Control with a K.
I was going to ask you if there was a K in there somewhere.
And then after that, I did a group with a guy in Halifax, and he's a DJ producer named Dirty Dane. So he came up with the idea to mix our names together, and we came up with Dirty Intuition. So that album is actually on Spotify, signed to a record label in Ontario, and yeah, I don't know, it did pretty good. We sold I think we sold like $1,000 worth of albums or whatever, the first run, with zero marketing budget. That's just like word of mouth through our friends, maybe getting on a couple of blogs and things like that. So that was kind of cool. It was a new record label that my buddy had started, so that was he was using us kind of as his guinea pigs to try and figure things out. And like he still does, like he'll run Google ads and he'll tell me, he's like, hey, I ran a new Facebook ad for you guys or whatever, and got you some more sales. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's like, man, that album's like 5 years old, man, and it sucks. I don't even want to hear it. I don't even want it to be up there. It's so bad.
You said it was Dirty Intuition?
Dirty Intuition, yeah.
Oh yeah, I found it.
So that's on Spotify. The album cover has like a naked girl with a tattoo on the side.
I see you on CD Baby and SoundCloud and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I see it right here. I'm not going to listen to it while we're recording here, but I found your Element Control YouTube video as well, so we'll take a listen on that.
Cool.
And like I said, I don't know if the Engines of Chaos, I don't even know if I could find that at this point. I have zero graphic design or web design skills whatsoever, but because I was the youngest guy in the group, naturally I'm the one most inclined to be able to build websites.
Right.
So that was my responsibility, and I feel like I did a tremendous disservice to the group because of my lack of knowledge. So,
wow.
But they're out there still making music somewhere. Let's see. I have to find it somewhere. I don't know. There's apparently a lot of Engines of Chaos. So.
Engines of Chaos, West Michigan. That's all right, man. You can I'll search for it, and you can maybe send me something if you find it.
We'll see what we can find and put it in the show notes, as they say, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. So, hey,
right,
thanks again for being here, dude.
Yeah.
So
appreciate you having me on. It's been a joy. It's been a pleasure. I wasn't sure how this was going to go. I've not done a podcast before, and like I said, felt like I was maybe on the edge of the the spectrum here on the type of people that you had on here on a regular basis. But I think we came up with some good stuff. So
I think so too, man. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Engine O Chaos, West Michigan. There's a shameless plug for a group I'm no longer in, but you'll find them on there.
All right. That has been Geoffrey Lamberts, everyone. Goodbye. Okay, that was super cool. And sadly, after saying goodbye, I had shut off the recording, as I normally do when I say goodbye. But we kept chatting, me and Geoffrey, we chatted on the phone for another hour. And it was pure gold that really should have been captured and been a part of this show. But hey, Geoffrey will be back, and we will get into these things that we discussed that you all missed because you weren't here in my living room with me. Anywho, that's it for another exciting installment of this flow state conversation. Until we meet again, my friends, peace, love, and light. Namaste, and all that other good noise. Ding!